Hello everybody and welcome to the Coach Oak Show on Coach Oak TV. You are here with the head coach of the Town Center, Coach Oak himself, for a little top 10 list. We're going to do top 10 cards from Rebel Clash. This is fully my opinion. We'll give some honorable mentions as well as a couple that were just off. So it's, even though it's a top 10, there is kind of 11, 12, 13 are kind of right there as well. First off, let's give a thanks to PokeBeach using their site to look at today. Make sure you go give them a look as well. You can see all the pretty arts, as well as all the translations. Thanks to them for everything they do. I check their daily for TCG news. If that is something you want to get, this is where I recommend personally. So, a couple cards that didn't make the list, but I think could be very good. Caterpie and Metapod. We'll pop up the Caterpie there. The Adaptive Illusion, this Pokemon can evolve during the first turn or the turn you play it. It has both of them have that. If we get a really good Butterfree, could be really good. There is a Butterfree that could be good with this, I think. I don't think it's this one, even though Poison, Burn, and Confuse in turn 1 is pretty disruptive. I don't think it's worth the deck spaces. There is one that could be good in the right deck. Butterfree from, I want to say Unbroken Bonds, but I'm not sure, but it's searched for 3 different basic energy types. So these cards could be very good, but could be very good because of something else. Appleton is somewhere. I should be Appleton. Could be very good. It doesn't make the list. I don't think we'll see a ton of play personally, but I could be very wrong, and it could be an absolute staple. The Fall Links combo. This is more personal. I think I'm looking forward to playing with it. I don't think it's going to be a top tier deck, but I think it could be fun. Also not on the list, which is weird because it's an ability lock, but I think it's still slightly too awkward ability lock. It's better than Slacking, but it's still a bit, it could absolutely become disruptive, and if the meta changes, it could potentially become really, really disruptive. But at the moment, I think it's just slightly too awkward to work. So it didn't make this list. Another one that is here just from a other mon evolves into perspective, this Evolution Roar, Galarian Meowth, with the other Berserker, right? That extra damage for metal types could be really, really important in some decks. Still to be proven whether ADP Zacians will play it with this or not. It depends on the numbers they need to hit and how the meta shakes down and all that kind of thing. But very good Meowth for all future Berserkers as well. Don't use this one. Probopass, it could be really good. So the Probopass, 10 plus 30 for each in the retreat cost, as well as the Melodic V. Yeah. I'm still between these two and Tangrowth, not sure which one will become the attacker in those kind of decks, but I think they'll become very good, but because I don't really know which is going to be the most effective. I don't actually have any of them on the list, the Tangrowth obviously being from past set. Personally, I'm leaning towards the Tangrowth, which is also informing them not making it, but yeah. Another one not making the list, I should mention these first ones are not in any order. Not making the list is Chatot. Lucky Match could be very good. I don't think it's the best option of the abilities. Once your turn, you may play this from your hand on your bench. Flip a coin. If heads, choose a support card from discard pile, put it in your hand. But with Scoop Up Net, it has a chance. It could be the way some people go for as kind of a VS Seeker type recovery. It is on a coin flip. But it definitely has a lot of potential. Again, I could see it becoming a staple, but I right now think the other options are slightly better, so it's not making the list. Another one just off the list that I think is better than people realize is Greedent. Once your turn, may search for a tool. If you don't put it in your hand, so just finding a tool you need to return, right? Searching at your skateboards, finding your U-turn board, finding frying pans, finding whatever broken tool down the road, right? Arcanine decks, if they want to play it, can find the burning scarves, right? All that kind of stuff. It has a lot of potential to be in a lot of different decks, which is why it's in the honorable mention. But it's not quite good enough. If it was a basic, yes, it would be, but not quite good enough to be anything better. The other one that has not made my listing, which might surprise some people, is the Ninetales V. Reasoning mostly being, I think it's more of a option in a toolbox. It's a very good option, but when this, it's a big set. Um, there's going to be things left that this one's probably the best of the ones not here, but it will kind of be a tool in Firebox, and I think it's only good based on the meta around it. Like right now, it's really good because Zacian. I think it'll be very good for a while because Zacian, and it's very good against anything that knocks itself out. But I think we're kind of going to be going towards a meta where that's not necessarily the case with VMAXs. Will I think soon kind of take more over, and they don't take themselves out. Please don't have it like a 340 hitting 350. Please don't do that. But yeah, so that's the ones who have not made the list. There's also a couple more honorable mentions that are kind of my top ones on the honorable mentions. But before I go into that, I want to give a brief like how I'm rating. So I'm rating. I'm a little bit more towards things that will be in a variety of decks rather than make up their own deck. Get a little more favor from me, as well as things that should be viable for the length of their life cycle rather than just for one particular time. Also would tend to lean a little heavier for me. Now, obviously, something that's good right now, that's the meta. I know I can't fully predict 2 years of meta, right? But I'm trying to kind of give a little bit of more credence to the ones that I think will be staples in decks going forward for a long time, rather than ones that are a really good attacker right now. So the Melodic Vs, like the Ninetales V, those ones you're already seeing are kind of going to be tweaked down a little bit than you would expect. Still, I think they're top 15 cards in this set, but I don't think they're top 10. The next one. So this is the kind of our technically 13-14 is Lombre Ludicolo. This combination, so the top entry Lombre, because of Oranguru, Sword and Shield, which that's the only reason this is, I think, even in this high of a consideration. But you can play just the Lombre with the Ludicolo, potentially just a 1/1 line, get it out without ever having to start it. Right, if you don't need it, you never play it. Right, they can just be poking on targets or whatever if you don't need them. But top entry just goes onto the bench if it's your top deck for turn. And then you have the Ludicolo, which does the 60 damage 60 times for each prize card you've taken. So it's a great finishing card for just a twin energy. If it didn't have twin, if Oranguru didn't exist, I wouldn't have this high. But I think this could be a surprisingly good tech over the lifespan of thing, especially if anything with the grass weakness ever pops up as good. This could be a very good, anything with an energy acceleration tech. It is a stage 2, but it's really kind of a stage 1 late game. You can kind of set this up fairly nicely in a nice spot. It might see absolutely no play, but it's kind of the one I'm saying, I think it's pretty good. It's not on my top 10, but it's pretty darn close. There's 2 attackers now that didn't quite make my top 10, and they surprised me that they didn't, is Dragapult V. Actually, a couple of cards I completely forgot to shout out as well are Cursula, which is the card that terrifies me most in the set. Where's Cursula? I'll have to find Cursula. Did I scroll by it? Should be... Is it Psychic? There we go. Galarian Cursula is also very good. Actually, I should probably put it higher. It probably should have more consideration. And the Dragapult with the Whimsicott ability. Actually, the Cursula probably should take my number 10 spot on this list because it's the card that scares me most. Do I want to do that? What's its attack again? It's not good, right? Nah, it stays. It's in the just off. It's ahead of Ludicolo though. Anyways, Dragapult V Max just misses for me. It is going to be very good. It is a little bit meta dependent, but also it kind of flips the meta on its head. It is very good against 1-prizers as a 3-prizer, which is often not the case. But it is very good against 1-prizers by spreading damage counters. However, with ADP still running around in ruling format, it's also like ADP is suppressing 1-prizers as well as this suppressing 1-prizers. I don't think 1-prizers are going to see enough play that it really becomes super viable. But it is 2 KOing, and again, this is one of those cards I think I've said before. if really smart players play it, it's going to be really, really good, but it's going to be kind of harder to use appropriately. The second psychic energy, right? There's so many ways to build it that it definitely will be a very good card. I have it just missing. Definitely an argument for it, especially in the number 10 spot. I would not be mad at all. Toxicity VMAX. I want the VMAX. VMAX. Yeah, there we go. This guy. 240. Does 160. 240 if the opponent is poisoned, so at least 250 there. Big damage. Good attacker. This is kind of a very good attacker against the big stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of the opposite of Dragapult, right? It's the VMAX, where I said this kind of has the other matchups. So like this hits the big damage, right? This is pretty oppressive for those big decks. It wants to take big KOs and do it as quick as possible. Very good attacker. I don't know if it will see play over its whole lifespan. I don't know if it will be consistent enough to stick around. Well, I need to be proven. It's one of those cards I know is good, but I need to be proven to put it a little bit higher. So let's move on to number 10, which most people probably wouldn't put in their number 10, but I think we'll see play in a lot of decks over the course, sneakily amount of decks in the course of its lifetime. Skylas also probably should get a shout out as well. But Sonia, search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon or 2 basic energy, reveal them, put them in your hand. Turn 1 support rule obviously hurts this, but the flexibility to go for either two Pokemon or 2 energy, right? Decks that want to accelerate energy, it's a good option there because it can help you with setup, or it can help you with the energy acceleration, stuff like Frostmoth. If you just need something, need to set up, so something like Fall Links, right? You need that full bench, right? It can go in here. Any deck, it's not your first supporter, it's not your second, it's probably your third supporter, right? It might be a 2 count, right? But that flexibility is so nice. It can either be Professor's Letter or it can be Double Nest Ball. Like, obviously it's your supporter, but that flexibility to consistency where it's usually a good card to see, right? And it's put to hand, right? So you can search 2 basic Pokemon. One of them can be your Dedenne GX, right? I find Pikarom, I find Dedenne. I'm still drawing cards, right? That element is really good. I gotta find my energy for turn. Boom, there's my 2 energy. I wish it was 2 in any combination of. I do wish that. I think it would seem a little more play. But I do think Sonya will sneak its way as that third supporter, fourth supporter, right? Low counts into a lot of decks over the course of its lifespan, right? There's never going to be a meta where searching for Pokemon or searching for basic energy is bad, right? There'll be lots of decks, specifically any decks that need to accelerate energy or need the extra energy in hand to work with, right? Whether it's to discard or to just move with, right? So, no, I don't think it's better than Professor's Research. No, I don't think it's better than anything like that. But it's definitely a good option for setup or anything that needs to accelerate from hand, which there's always going to be stuff like that, right? Frostmoth is one in particular I think could be very good. I know I've seen it pop up in quite a few decks. That it surprised me coming out of Japan, and when I really started looking at it, thinking about it long-term, lots of decks, long-term viability, I think Sonya is actually pretty good. So number 9, we're going to move on to Bolton V. Bolton V, at first I wasn't convinced. I'm starting to become more and more convinced. It really gets the push up here over kind of the other attacking V cards that we've seen so far. That just missed the top 10 because A, it can accelerate lightning energy very cheaply, which is always good. That is a good cheap lightning acceleration, right? It's not the entire reason you play the card, but we always see cards like this typically on 1 prizers, but they always do very well. But this one's 2 prizer because it's a very good second attack, right? So if you get everything built up, if you accelerate that energy, you have a good attack. It's not the best scale ever, right? 10 plus 30, but it is pretty solid scale with a way to accelerate energy as well. We've seen it popping up in speed decks already. We've seen it popping up in Pikarom decks. We've seen it popping up as, Bolton V and Friends decks, right? So it's very flexible in that it can be its own deck. It can do its own thing, or it can help out as attack and other things. So I think because low energy, basic, that can accelerate, plus it can do damage, I think we'll see it popping up a lot. I wasn't sold on them. I'm starting to be sold on Bolton. Next up, we have a card I really like is Garbodor. once you're in turn, if there's a stadium in play, you may leave your opponent's active poisons, right? Decks that want to be built on special effects, this is awesome. Stuff that wants to do poison, this is awesome. Stuff that wants to trap in the active, if you need to take stuff out, great. But I think its best use might just be, I need to do 10 extra damage, right? It's pretty always there for poison, right? If they end up sitting there, great. You can get it over and over, right? You have ways to boost this if we want it in format, but just that 10 extra damage, 20 extra damage, whatever, right? That's a pretty key thing. It also pairs really well with Toxtricity VMAX, which I don't think would be viable at all without Garbodor. So I'm glad we have Garbodor for that. Obviously, it can get targeted down the bench, but I think it is a nice, efficient, just a nice little effect. Just poison, right? I know you have to have a stadium play, but you're going to want to play stadium in most decks anyways. There you go. Even if you're playing Chaotic Swell to rock your Garbodor, great. That was our number 8. Moving on to number 7. These kind of 3 here, I think, could all be moved around 7 through 9, but is Double V. Softfoil is effective 240 on a basic, which is big because of the ability. Obviously, if its ability gets shut off, it's only 210, but that's still fairly big on a basic. 120 for 3 colorless is not great, but it's not the worst thing ever. But then you scale 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. Great finishing card. It'll be a one-of in a lot of decks with energy acceleration, right? Very good, just revenge burst, right? It's that comeback, end a game, right? It's a really nice option to have in a lot of decks. That's just kind of that finishing oomph that you need, as well as being pretty big, so that if you're behind, right, you can stick it up there, hopefully get a reset stamp as well. Stick it up there, start hitting in. You can hit it really big on a VMAX, for example, and just see if they might not be able to even take you out. Right? Some of them will. Some of them might miss if you take away their options as well. So it's a very good attacker that's very splashable, which is why I like it here. As number 7, as I said, I think 7 through 9 could definitely be mixed up. I think 10 through 12 could all be mixed up as well. On to number 6, I've got Galar Mine. Galar Mine, retreat cost of both active Pokemon, hopefully you are more prepared for it than there, is 2 colorless more. Good disruption card, or it's one that you can build in on anything that attacks, scales their attack based on the retreat cost of the opponent. Yeah, it's annoying, right? Trapping things in the active is always good. This will boost even past, right, stuff that plays air balloon so they can't get trapped in the active. Well, now they got a Galar Mine as well to go past the air balloon, right? This card might force people to have to play air balloon plus play splash in a Stuffle's evolution. Beware, to be able to retreat, right? This is going to add a lot of interesting elements in terms of the stadium war as well. One more reason you kind of always need to have stadiums right now, because you don't want to have a Galar Mine stuck. That means you can't retreat, and you get stuck if they gust something up. Just a very disruptive card. We'll have to see. I'm not experienced enough to know how cards like this might do long term, but I think, at least right now, it's got, between Absol and all the different attackers that scale, it's got definitely a chance in attacking decks. Plus, I think it could be good as disruption factor in a lot of different decks, which is why I've got it as high as number 6. And number 5, I have Eldegoss V. I think Pokemon Company wishes this was higher. Eldegoss V is a very good ability, right? Okay. Soar upwards, right? So it can get itself out, shuffle itself back into the deck and everything attached to it. 2 colorless, right? So it can get going, get away. But it's a VS Seeker on an ability. You don't want to start with it. It is a terrible starting Pokemon. But and it's not a great early game effect like, Lele, Dedenne, Shaman, all them. This is late game, so it's a little bit more annoying. We'd rather have something like, was either really great ability be something early game that we can search for really quickly. But this is the finisher, right? Get this via Seeker for what you need for game, or via Seeker for what you need to move on. That's a 1 of or 2 of in a vast majority of decks going forward. I think this is the best option, unless you want to play a solely one prize deck, in which case Mewtwo and Chatot are probably where you want to go, depending if you're playing Rangaroo or not. But Eldegoss V will be splashed in a lot of decks, just as, Happy March, Boss's Order for game. And we'll talk about Boss's Orders, don't you worry. I'm sure you all know it's coming. Number 4, the top 4 I think could all be mixed around as well. For the most part, I'm pretty confident where I got them, but there's definitely arguments each way. I've got Twin Energy in at number 4. Twin Energy is an absolute meta-defining card. That being said, there's a lot of decks that won't use it, which is why I have it at 4, which feels a bit low for it, considering it will make so many things viable. For right now, and at least for a while, it only works on V and non-V, non-GX, so typically one-prizers. But one-prizers are still going to be suppressed in format due to ADP and due to Dragapult VMAX for at least a while. And right now, Malmar's doing it as well. Malmar doesn't really want to play Twin Energy. So it's going to have a long time where it's phenomenal, and it's going to make decks that aren't viable. But if the attackers that I see is being around in format, stick around in format, it's going to lessen the amount that it can be used. But don't get me wrong, Twin Energy absolutely makes things viable. We already said about Ludicolo being made viable because of this, right? Stuff like Fallings is made viable because of it. There will be all kinds of things going back, right? We got Gallade that will become. Tool Drop could come back, right? Everything like that. Stuff that the non-GXers that really have that 2 energy cost, suddenly it's a Twin Energy attacker, right? That makes a big difference. If we get ways to recover this in the future as well, that would be great, like a special charge reprint or something, right? This gets even better. But for right now, I've got this at number 4. Number 3, I've got right above it Tool Scrapper. Tool Scrapper, I think, will just seem play in more decks, which is why I've got it above. But these two especially, I debated long and hard about which was 3, which was 4. But Tool Scrapper 3 because I think it'll be in way more decks, and we'll see play over the lifespan of it. It'll be 1 or 2 of, right, in most decks. Discard up to tool pull from tools from your player's Pokemon. If you need to get something of your own, if there's an option. For example, an Island Challenge Amulet that no longer is in a good spot, right? No longer a good option because you realize they can drop damage counters or something. You can pull that back up, get rid of that as needed. But it's discard 2 tools from your opponent, right? You can take that escape board. You can take all that U-turn board, obviously not as phenomenal to take. But you can take all those different tools that could be relied on, and we'll take every tool that becomes out for the next while, which is phenomenal, right? It's just good disruption. It's one of those things just you're going to want to have as an option in case you face those decks where tools are important. Number 2, I have also right above it, Scoop Up Net. Scoop Up Net is absolutely a meta definer as well. Only works on one-prizers. The difference here is because it's support thing, right? It can be used for one-price support mons, where Twin Energy can only really be used for attacking. So Scoop Net, right? It can act as a second switch. It can be used to recycle effects, right? It turns Chatot. You can use it with Scoop Net to become a 75% chance to be a VS Seeker, right? Just as an example, Jirachis can find this off Stellar Wish to get itself out of active if needed, right? It can be a way to use another Jirachi if you really need. There's just so many different ways that we can get this to just be abused. And expanded, don't even get me started. This is mostly focused on standard, but expanded, don't get me started. This is a really busted card. But it is hard in any set to beat the boss. Boss's orders. Rainbow Rocket's here. The big granddaddy of game finishing himself, Giovanni. Alexander reprint, right? Absolute meta definer. It is really just clean, efficient. I'm taking something off your bench for a game. Taking something off your bench to disrupt. Its gusting has always been good. Gusting will always be good. This is the granddaddy of them all. He'll save deck space as well, right? We saw decks that were having to play up to like 8 gusting options between custom catchers and great catchers and Pokemon catchers. This limits that. Yes, it's a supporter instead of items, but at the end of the day, it's boss's orders for a game, right? It's going to win games. Once you have your board set up, this becomes absolutely phenomenal. Anyways, that is my top 10. Just a quick rundown as a reminder. Number 10, Sonia. Number 9, Bolton V. Number 8, Garbodor. Number 7, Double V. Number 6, Galar Mine. Number 5, Eldegoss V. Number 4, Twin Energy. 3, Tool Scrapper. 2, Scoop Up Net. And 1, Big Bad Giovanni, Boss's Orders. Have a nice day, everybody, because Coach Oak said so, and I will see you all next time.